Geek Therapy Radio.
Welcome to the Geek Therapy Radio podcast. I am, of course, your mental curator, Johnny Hemberger, and the topic today I wanted to bring up was writer's block. I guess that's the most popular way to think of it. Really, it's the creative funk that we all get into sometimes. Lord knows I get into creative funks, and that is one of the reasons why I'm so thankful that I have, I guess, what others would call, most people would call a distracted mind, but I don't know if it is called distraction. I just find so many different things fascinating, and I found a way to funnel that fascination with all things into a radio show. I just turned off an old tube TV right in front of me that was on for some reason, not displaying anything. So that's one thing I'm a geek about, tube TVs. Anyways, I get into creative funks just like anyone else. As many of my listeners know, I do make music. I went to sound school, and music's really what got me into all of this. And you don't get into music without becoming, at least getting a passing knowledge in other areas. For instance, when I was going to sound school, an entire section of it was electronics. We had to build our own voltmeter, work on soundboards, all sorts of stuff. So capacitors, resistors, trims, pots, all those good things. So I always had a fascination with electronics, but this kind of fed it even more so. But the fact remains, we get into these creative funks and we don't see ways out of it. So the point of this podcast today is just to kind of just talk about that. Maybe in just talking about that, it'll help some of you listening, maybe even help me. It'll be a little bit of geek therapy for us all today. So what I was saying about being fascinated in all sorts of different things, that means that when I get into a creative funk, let's say with the perfect example tonight, as I'm recording this right now, it is 3:02 in the morning here in Houston. I did not want to record today's podcast so late, but I got distracted by something, and in a way the distraction kind of took the show captive because the distraction kept me from making the show. I physically couldn't make the show. So what I was trying to do tonight is I said, okay, right before I record the podcast, I'll just put 2 graphics cards in my computer. So I will run my GTX 980 and put in a GTS 250. That is an old graphics card. Well, old in the grand scheme of graphics cards. You may ask, those of you who are into gaming PCs and everything, Johnny, why in the holy heck do you have a GTS 250, let alone why do you want to put it into your system along with a GTX 980? Well, for those of you who don't know, you can put 2 different graphics cards in your computer. It does take some fiddling, and the fiddling is where I got sidetracked tonight. The reason I have the GTS 250 is it's because it's one of the last, or the last that I know of, and maybe somebody can email me to correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the GTS 250 is the last NVIDIA card with an S-video output. In my rig here at my home studio, I do have this old Emerson, cathode tube TV in front of me. The old TV, the old glass TV that your grandma has, that is one of my monitors. Of course, I've got the big 70-inch up above it, 70-inch HD TV above it. That's my main monitor. But below it, I have this old square glass CRT tube TV. And I want to hook it up through S-video, since it doesn't have an HDMI input, obviously. All it has is composite video and S-video. So I have a graphics card that I pulled out of my arcade machine that has the S-video output so that I can have this CRT as a secondary display. I hesitate to call it a CRT because it isn't very high resolution. I think the max that it supports is 800 by 600. Anyways, that's why I need the GTS 250, because Lord knows the GTX 980 does not have an S-video output. And I know what some of you might also be thinking on that point. Johnny, why don't you just get a converter, an HDMI to S-video composite converter? Well, because I don't want to introduce lag. The entire point of having this glass TV in front of me is that CRTs don't have any lag, at least not like modern flat panels do that process imaging, and they've gotten way better. Modern flat screen TVs have gotten way better in terms of latency, especially when you turn off all that video processing in the TV and turn on game mode and just eliminate as much of that background processing as possible. The latency has gotten pretty good with modern TVs, but nothing will beat a CRT in terms of response time. So that's why I wanted it in my system here. Also, I have lots of emulators on my computer, so I want to play, for instance, old NES games on a TV designed for the original Nintendo Entertainment System. No, the NES did not have S-video output. Of course, it had composite output. But like I said, this TV has composite input. I can do split. I can play on my old vintage emulators on an old vintage TV with almost zero lag and zero latency. That's why I want this TV in here, and that's why I want the GTS 250 in my computer alongside of my GTX 980. For those of you unfamiliar with graphics cards, don't let all those numbers bog you down. It really doesn't matter. The point of tonight is that it's easier said than done to put two different graphics cards in your computer. It is way easier to put two graphics cards of a close enough generational gap that the same driver, the same NVIDIA drivers in this case, work for both cards. For instance, if I was going to put in a GTX, 770 along with the GTX 980, that's going to run on the same driver. As of recording right now, it's NVIDIA driver, do I even want to look it up? 440 point... Is it going to bring it up? No, something's wrong with NVIDIA's servers. Oh, I can look it up in my downloads folder. You know what? Yeah, actually, now that I'm saying it, I'm just gonna tell you. Okay, the latest video driver for the from NVIDIA is 440.97. That will work fine with two cards close enough in generation, like a GTX 770 and a GTX 980. That latest driver, 440.97, does not work with the GTS 250. The last driver that came out from NVIDIA that supported the GTS 250 is driver 342.01, and that was back in 2016. So I am having a bear of a time getting both cards to work in the same system. Essentially, I want the GTX 980 to be the main card, to be the main horsepower driving the main high-definition display, and then I want the GTS 250, like I said, with the S-video output, just running the old tube TV I have in front of me. I did get it working. It is not working currently because I undid it, because here's what kept me from doing the podcast. The GTS 250 is not quiet. It does quiet down, but in the setup I had, its fan was running at basically 100% the entire time. And that is no bueno in a podcast studio where silence is golden. All you would hear right now is the whir of the fan of the GTS 250. So I spent hours with that, and I just finally decided I have to get a podcast out today. It is going on 3 a.m. I need to do this. So I went ahead and pulled out the GTS 250. I reinstalled the latest driver for the GTX 980, which is the current latest driver for NVIDIA, so I could have that silence so I could record. But let's go back to my main point of getting into artistic slumps and how we can kind of deal with that. And I have a guest on the podcast today. It is Andrew. He's been on the podcast before, on the show before, actually, the big show. He is the weekend overnight board op at KTRH. That's a position I used to hold. Then I went full-time overnight board op. I was full-time overnight board op for a couple years, and now I moved to the daytime with the living people, still at KTRH. And, of course, the show and 5 podcasts a week and the big show on Saturday and blah, blah, blah. Anyways, Andrew, like all of us, is a fellow geek. And one of his geek things, he has a few geek things, one of them being at least Mexican wrestling, if not all of wrestling. But he's also an artist. Like he's huge into drawing and just creating things on a canvas, whether that canvas is actual canvas or notebook paper. Whenever I see him come into the studio, if he's filling in for Nico or something like that, he's got his supplies with him. He's got his pencils, he's got his notebooks. He's just an extremely creative person, and I admire him for that. It makes me want to get back into drawing. I found some of my old sketchbooks in storage, and I was all right back in the day, but it's one of those things that I haven't kept up with. So, anyways, Andrew has been going through an artistic slump, a creative slump recently, and he wanted to share his experience with it and maybe have some encouragement for you listening. He calls it, I really like this is a segment called Geek Catharsis on Geek Therapy Radio. I'll just let Andrew take it away.
Hey Johnny, and to all geeks everywhere in the known and unknown universes, what's good, fam? This is your buddy and fellow geek Andrew, one of Johnny's co-producers at KTRH and KPRC. And as I have said before, I have been going through a creative funk. Now, the body funk's still there. I'll go bathe. This is my semi-annual bathing time this time of year. Don't worry about that. That funk will go away, at least for a little while. This creative funk has really stumped me. I've been trying to draw a car or draw a Hot Wheels concept of a car, and every time I try to come up with a concept that looks like a Lamborghini. Lamborghinis are some of my favorite cars, and I did a project earlier this year trying to take a whole bunch of Lamborghini motifs to see if I can convert that into a big rig, and that was a really fun exercise to do. And now I'm trying to take what I know of cars and make that into a really cool looking car for a Hot Wheels concept. And I think all those Lamborghini motifs have stuck in my head, and I'm trying to get around them. So what am I doing? What am I trying to do to break through this wall? Well, I have purchased a whole bunch of Hot Wheels cars to use as inspiration for this concept. I decided it's time to put these things to good use. Stop only using them for racing with my girls, and it's time to start using them for some drawing. So I took my little hand, went into the bag, and grabbed out 3 Hot Wheels cars, and I drew all 3 of them from a profile standpoint. And then after I finished the profile, I have tried to combine them into one mega car, combining all 3 of their design standpoints into one. And I don't know if it's cool or not, but it's been a fun process to kind of get around this creative funk. So, you know what? Get creative. Whether this inspiration came from the divine, came from the universe moving in my direction, or a neuron in my brain misfiring for my good, you know what? It's fun. So give it a try. Try something. Find suggestions, as I said before, on the internet as to how to get around a creative funk to possibly get you in the right direction in your geekiness. Well, this is Andrew signing off, and to everyone out there, this has been a bit of Geek Catharsis, and keep geeking on, geeks.
Thank you, Andrew, for that Geek Catharsis, and it really is true what you mentioned. Looking around for inspiration elsewhere, and kind of up to and including taking things works of art that already exist, that other people have made, and just try to basically, I don't want to say directly, an A to A copy of it, but use it as an inspiration. Start drawing it. In your case, start drawing the side profile of the Hot Wheels car, and that will kind of start sparking kind of your creative juices to take that design wherever your creativity leads you. How I would adapt it to me and how I do adapt it in my own life, and what I suggest other musicians do. And I'll try to apply this to other areas of geekdom and other areas of artistic expression. But whenever I hear of another musician, another songwriter, singer-songwriter, whatever, in a creative funk, they haven't written a new song, they haven't played a new song, they haven't come up with a new riff in ages, they haven't come up with a new chord progression in ages, they haven't created anything brand new and unique in a long time. And my suggestion is always start covering stuff. Like, find artists that you really like, go back through your catalog of artists that you really, really like, and start covering some of their songs again. I mean, we all started learning our craft, whether it was, oil on canvas or pencil drawing or music or what have you, woodworking. We've all used templates. We've all tried to copy off of the masters who inspired us, those who have established themselves. We've copied their work, because what winds up happening is, for instance, doing a cover of a song. I was mowing the lawn the other day and I was listening to Michael Jackson, and I thought, one of the songs came. I have so many Michael Jackson songs on my phone, but I thought I would really love to cover this acoustically. Turn this very poppy pop song, which makes sense because it's a pop song, poppy pop song, but adapt it to my own sort of style. But it would start with me basically just mirroring the rhythm parts, the melodies and everything like that in the Michael Jackson song on an acoustic guitar. Because usually what winds up happening is that, first of all, that keeps you in practice. That keeps you in practice with your instrument and with your craft. And second of all, it inspires, you will be amazed as you work on covering other people's songs, how it inspires brand new melodies in your own life, in your own music. So me listening to Michael Jackson, Black or White or whatever song I'm listening to, it inspires a different melody. Maybe you just hear it in a different way. That's a huge thing too, especially with music. Have you ever been listening to a song? And I know my musician listeners are perking up with this. They're going to know exactly what I'm talking about here. Have you ever been listening to a song and you hear more parts in the song that aren't there? You say, oh, in this bridge section, a freaking violin or a string section or a clarinet, something like that, playing this little melody would work so well. And I'll give a prime example of that. Maybe I'll play it here. I will play it here. So a while back, just as a for instance, I covered Mumford & Sons' I Will Wait. And that song is a full arrangement. Yes, it's very folksy, so the instruments are very folksy. But the arrangement, I always heard some harmonics happening in the bridge section. And I thought, you know what? While I'm covering the song, I will add that part that I heard in my head that doesn't exist in the original song. I will add it to the cover. And that really helps get the creative juices flowing, because once you create something, even if it's your own spin, it's your own little taste, your own part of you that you've imbued into the cover of this song, it fires you up and it gets those creative juices flowing and it gets you out of the slump. So I'm going to play my little version of I Will Wait here, just that little section I'm talking about. So let's listen just for a minute. All right, so here's the original part from the original song first.
Now I'll hold as well as strong and use my head alongside my heart. So tame my flesh and fix my eyes, a tethered mind freed from the lies
Okay, so I'm going to play this part back again, and I'm just going to kind of vocalize the acoustic guitar harmonic part I always heard in my head on top of that piano part that is prevalent through this section of the song. So here's the part that I heard. Now just bear with me for a moment.
Now I'll old as well as strong, and use my head alongside my heart.
I'm going to whistle it.
So tame my flesh and fix my eyes, a tethered mind freed from the lies. And
All right, so that's the part I heard in that song that doesn't exist. And obviously, this original recording of the song, it doesn't exist in any of the versions of the song that I have ever heard, any live version at all. So here's that same section, but of my cover of this song. So it's me singing, it's me playing all the guitars, and it's me adding that guitar, that acoustic harmonic into the song that I heard in my head but wasn't in the original. Let's just listen to that. So take my flesh, fix my eyes, a tethered mind free from the lies. And all right, so there it is. That part I heard in my head. And I had the creative freedom to add it into my version of that song by covering the song. And just that act of putting down permanently into the real world what had previously only existed in my head was very cathartic and stimulating and inspiring. 90% of the creative recipe is inspiration. So I encourage you, if you're a musician and you're in a creative funk, get over your own pride and just cover other people's stuff for a while. I promise you it will spark creativity in your own original works. And I didn't mean to be harsh by saying swallow your pride, but because not all of us are like that. But the fact remains, some musicians are prideful in that way. And you'll notice that the best musicians, they cover other people's stuff frequently. They aren't so full of themselves that they get afraid that they're going to, somehow lose their own magic if they start covering other people's music. No, it's what you do in a creative funk, at least, to, at the bare minimum, stay sharp with the positive side effect of inspiring creativity yourself. And I will play my full cover of that Mumford & Sons song as the outro here. I'll play the full version of my song there, or my cover of I Will Wait. So stay tuned to the end. So I want to apply that cover other people's stuff mentality to art. Cover a Van Gogh. Maybe that's not even your style. I would say it'd be even better if Van Gogh's medium, what did Van Gogh use oil on canvas at least? What was it? Something like, let's say your medium is colored pencil or watercolors. I think Van Gogh was watercolor. Anyways, doesn't matter. If you have a completely different medium of art, maybe you're a sculptor, try to sculpt a Van Gogh. Try to sculpt a Rembrandt. Chisel it out into the clay. Chisel it out of the wood, out of the marble. Just basically cover another artist's work. Because as you go, you will also have the side effect, the side benefit of learning a new technique. A new technique that Van Gogh used that you wouldn't think would apply to, working with wood, but it kind of forces you to learn it These little eureka moments that come to you when you cover other people's work. You try to emulate and copy their work, but into your own medium, because the fact remains, the best covers, only of music, but the best covers are not the just copy and pastes of another artist's work. The best covers are covers that are familiar somewhat in their tonality. It's obvious that you're covering, let's say, Michael Jackson's Beat It, but you're doing it in a Mumford & Sons style. How cool would it be if Mumford & Sons covered Michael Jackson's Beat It, or Thriller for that matter? Would even be even more of a stretch, but it would still sound cool because it's a Michael Jackson song, but at the end of the day, it's a Mumford & Sons song because it's all of their feeling going into it. It would be really stupid if, let's say, Mumford & Sons wanted to cover Metallica Black Album, so they just got all the same instruments and metal guitar, heavy metal, hard guitars. They recorded everything, just copy and paste from the Black Album. It would be called, stupid and lazy and not worth it. But if it was Mumford & Sons covering the Black Album in the style of Mumford & Sons, that would be awesome, or at least much more respectable. I mean, everyone's taste is different. I'll give an example, and I do not officially endorse this because it's a PG show, but Tenacious D put out an album when I was in high school. If you're easily offended, do not look up Tenacious D. But I know a lot of people listening know who Tenacious D are. Anyways, there's a bluegrass band that put out an entire cover album of that first Tenacious D album in completely bluegrass form. And it is one of the coolest things I have ever heard. It is so cool to hear a unique cover of a completely different, unique artist. So don't be afraid, and I'll start wrapping it up with that. Really wrapping it up because it's past 3:30 now. I need to go to bed. I'll mess around with my computer later. But don't be afraid to, if you're in an artistic slump, try copying somebody else's work, covering somebody else's work, drawing that Hot Wheels car as only Andrew knows how to draw Hot Wheels. Cover a John Mayer song when your artistic style is hard rock. You might learn something on the way. Not might, you will definitely learn something along the way. It will inspire you to be creative in your own original work. That much I can promise you. That's even from personal experience. So I guess that's where I'll leave it for tonight. It is 3:38 right now. My wife is going to give me the old razzle-dazzle. What time did you come to bed last night? Baby, you just... don't worry about that. Oh, it's also hot in here. So, be good to each other, including yourselves. Know that you are loved, and you are worthy of love, that you're worthy of being loved and loving others. We're all geeks about something, so embrace your inner geek. And if you're in a slump, embrace somebody else's inner geek. If you are in a slump with a hobby, and your hobby is, I don't know, building ships in a bottle, maybe give building airplanes a try. Maybe give oil on canvas a try. Maybe pick up that guitar you've been meaning to learn. Venture outside of your hobby. Maybe that'll reinvigorate your passion for building ships in a bottle. Maybe at the end of the day you realize I really don't like these other hobbies and I really love building ships in a bottle. Maybe that's the inspiration you need from trying other things. But until tomorrow, be good to each other and enjoy my cover of I Will Wait. Well, I come home like a stone, and I fell heavy into your arms. which we've known will blow away with this new sun. And I'll kneel down, wait for now. I'll kneel down, know my ground. And I will wait for you. I will wait for you. So break my step and relent. Now you forgave, and I won't forget. Know what we've seen, and him with less. Now in some way shake the excess. And I will wait for you. 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 Now I'll be bold as well as strong. Use my head alongside my heart. So take my flesh, fix my eyes, a tethered mind, free from the lies. And I'll kneel down, wait for now. I'll kneel down, know my ground. Woo! Spirit gold and bow my hand. Feel my heart slow